Tonight, we expose the moment Prince William finally drew the line after Meghan Markle allegedly targeted young Princess Charlotte in a scandalous way. It's the kind of story that shakes even the most hardened palace insiders. A child only 3 years old was reportedly left in tears in the days leading up to one of the most watched royal events in recent history. But what exactly happened behind closed doors? And why did this moment, according to insiders, mark a point of no return for the future King of England? The whispers started quietly, almost inaudibly, just murmurs between staffers, aides, and family friends. But as time passed, the details became harder to ignore. The alleged cruelty wasn't directed at an adult capable of defending themselves. It was aimed at a toddler Princess Charlotte who had barely learned how to navigate royal life, let alone survive the emotional weight of it. Reports suggest that she was compared unfavorably to another child, belittled for her appearance, and emotionally wounded before she even understood why. The emotional fallout? Devastating. As the storm built behind palace walls, Prince William reportedly reached his breaking point. It wasn't just about wedding dramas anymore. It was about his daughter, his flesh and blood, and what he saw as a line being crossed. Meghan Markle, still relatively new to the fold, found herself at the center of a royal reckoning, a rupture so deep it would change everything. And as Kate Middleton, recovering from the birth of Prince Louis, tried to hold it all together, the pressure from every direction became unbearable. The cast of this royal drama was now fully assembled: Meghan embattled and bold, Kate protective and poised, William torn but resolute, Harry loyal but conflicted, and Charlotte, the innocent child unknowingly caught in the middle of it all. Behind every headline and every sanitized press release lay a deeper truth buried beneath years of tension, public smiles, and strained photo ops. Tonight, we're not here to pass judgment. We're here to tell the story. A story backed by sources, shaped by memoirs, leaked texts, and eyewitness accounts. A story with many sides, but one that has refused to go away. Because once a royal bond is broken, especially one involving a child, it's nearly impossible to repair. This isn't just a tale of in-laws clashing. It's a saga of betrayal, parental fury, and the unraveling of a modern monarchy. Let's rewind to 2018, the year that drama behind the scenes reshaped royal relationships. In 2018, all eyes were on Meghan and Harry's Windsor Castle nuptials, but not everyone remembered it fondly for all the right reasons. On the surface, it was a fairy tale moment, the American actress walking down the aisle into one of the most ancient royal institutions, a modern love story poised to rejuvenate the crown's dusty image. But behind those grand walls, tensions brewed in silence. Smiles for the cameras masked private anguish, and beneath the elegance of satin and floral arrangements lay a moment that would fracture bonds in ways no one could fully anticipate. Princess Charlotte, then only 3 years old, was set to play a central role as one of Meghan's bridesmaids. It should have been a memory her family would cherish forever. But instead of joy, it brought tears. According to messages cited in Prince Harry's memoir Spare, Kate reached out to Meghan in the final days before the wedding. Her concern was crystal clear: Charlotte had tried on her dress at home and broken down in tears. The reason? The dress was too big, too long, too baggy. For a child that young, wearing something ill-fitting to an international spectacle would be overwhelming. But what followed, according to Harry, was not empathy. Meghan's reported response was practical and cold. The tailor had been standing by since 8 a.m. They could just go get it fixed. This brief exchange ignited more than just a disagreement over dress alterations. It tapped into something deeper, a clash in values, a disconnect between two women under immense pressure. Kate, fresh from giving birth to Prince Louis only weeks earlier, was in a physically and emotionally delicate state. Meghan, meanwhile, was reportedly managing the emotional fallout of her father Thomas Markle's withdrawal from the wedding amid scandal. Two women on opposite ends of stress, thrown into the spotlight and forced to navigate royal expectations while silently dealing with personal crises. It was combustible. On paper, this could have been dismissed as a last-minute dress hiccup common for most weddings. But in this case, it felt like the tip of a much larger iceberg. Meghan's refusal to accommodate Kate's concerns, coupled with the dismissive tone captured in the texts, sent a message far louder than any tabloid headline: empathy was absent. Compromise was not on offer. And when a child was involved, especially a royal child, that absence hit even harder. The tailor, Ajay Murpuri, would later confirm the chaos surrounding the bridesmaids' dresses. None of them fit. All 6 needed adjusting. But he also stated that he saw no tension or conflict in person. Yet, that didn't stop the rumors from spreading or the wounds from deepening. Because what people felt was not just about the dresses themselves, but about how the situation was handled, and more importantly, how it made Charlotte, a 3-year-old child, feel. There are weddings, and then there are royal weddings. Every moment, every whisper, every decision is amplified. And this small window into the final days before Meghan's big day began to cast a long, troubling shadow. In hindsight, it's clear that this wasn't just about a dress. This was the moment where civility began to unravel, where mistrust seeped in, and where the first tear in the royal fabric was made visible to those looking closely. But this wasn't just a dress problem, it sparked an emotional avalanche. Who cried, who apologized, and who held grudges? The conflicting narratives are still reverberating today. What should have been a fleeting wedding week disagreement instead turned into a royal flashpoint, a single tearful moment that would be dissected, rewritten, and weaponized on a global scale. The truth, however, remains murky. And as more voices stepped into the chaos from palace insiders to televised confessions, the one simple question of who made who cry exploded into a deeper question. What really happened between Meghan Markle and Princess Charlotte? Meghan's side came first, not in time, but in thunderous volume when she finally broke her silence during the infamous Oprah Winfrey interview. Millions watched as Meghan, sitting beside Harry, revealed that it wasn't she who made Kate cry in the days before her wedding. It was the other way around. Calm but pointed, Meghan claimed that the reverse happened, and that it was she who had been reduced to tears. But she didn't stop there. Meghan added that Kate had later apologized and even brought her flowers, a gesture Meghan claimed she accepted. Still, the damage was done not just to reputations, but to trust. It was a royal bombshell that clashed violently with years of silent assumptions. But then came a different angle. Tom Quinn, in his book Yes Ma'am, added fuel to the fire by suggesting that the truth might not be so one-sided. According to Quinn, both women were deeply emotional during the lead-up to the wedding. Both of them were really upset, one insider revealed. There were tears on both sides. Rather than one being the sole aggressor and the other a helpless victim, the clash may have been the product of high emotions, poor timing, and a lack of grace on both parts. The comments were regrettable, the fallout inevitable, and the truth? Still lost somewhere between competing memories. And it wasn't just authors weighing in. A former royal staffer, speaking anonymously, went further. The media got it wrong, they said. There was tension, but it was mutual. This wasn't about one woman destroying the other. It was about two women under crushing pressure, both acting out in ways they probably regret. The world wanted a villain and a victim. But what if there was only a tragedy? Then came the tailor. Ajay Murpuri, the man caught in the eye of the storm, claimed that all 6 bridesmaid dresses were indeed ill-fitting and required urgent alterations. But crucially, he stated he saw no arguing, no raised voices, no visible breakdowns. It was, in his words, a day filled with calm professionalism. Still, his observations only added to the confusion. Could the emotional explosions have happened out of sight? Or was this entire scandal amplified beyond proportion? Prince Harry, for his part, cemented the narrative in Spare, his explosive memoir. According to Harry, he returned home one day to find Meghan sobbing on the floor after her exchange with Kate. He confirmed that Kate did later bring flowers and a card, but the implication was clear: Meghan had been wounded deeply. Harry's account was intended to end the debate, but instead, it only hardened opposing sides. Meghan's supporters saw a woman under attack. Kate's supporters pointed to a manipulative retelling of events. And somewhere in the middle of it all, the only person who had cried publicly, Princess Charlotte, was still a child with no voice in the matter. The public saw tears, but hidden beneath was something even more explosive. Here's where the story takes a dark turn. Insider allegations that Meghan compared Charlotte unfavorably to another child. If the wedding dress resulted in bruised relationships, this moment, whispered in corners of royal commentary, threatened to shatter them entirely. According to royal biographer and outspoken aristocrat Lady Colin Campbell, Meghan allegedly looked at young Charlotte and uttered the cruelest comparison imaginable. She was, in Meghan's words, fat and pudgy, especially when stacked against Ivy Jessica Mulroney's daughter, who was 6 years older and held up as the supposed ideal. To call this disturbing would be an understatement. Charlotte, just a toddler at the time, had no context for the brutal world she was born into. But she felt every sting. Insiders claim she was reduced to tears not from a dress, not from fatigue but from shame. A child, weaponized in an adult war. That moment, according to those close to William and Kate, was unforgivable. Not simply because of what was said, but because of who it was said to. A defenseless little girl. From that point on, the rift between the Cambridges and Meghan wasn't just tension. It was finality. An emotional line was crossed, and William, protective and furious, reportedly made a silent vow: this could not continue. This wasn't about royal protocol or miscommunication anymore. It was about basic human decency, a line Meghan was now accused of violating. The fallout? Quiet, but seismic. Meetings were pulled. Arrangements fell apart. And within months, the emotional distance between the couples turned into a public chasm. For many, this was the real beginning of the end. But how much of this holds up to scrutiny, and where's the truth? Between rumors, memoirs, and leaks, here's what we can actually verify. In the maze of royal drama, it becomes increasingly difficult to separate the carefully choreographed truth from the emotionally charged hearsay. Books like Yes, Ma'am and Prince Harry's spare attempt to peel back the curtain, each offering intimate, emotionally raw glimpses into what really happened. Yet even these are filtered through memory, loyalty, and personal bias. They don't give us court transcripts, they give us perspective. And perspective, while powerful, is rarely the whole truth. In Spare, Harry paints Meghan as the deeply wounded party, the one left sobbing on the floor after a cold exchange with Kate over Charlotte's dress. There's no mention of fat-shaming, no allegations of comparing children, no cruel insults flung at a 3-year-old. It's a narrative meant to inspire sympathy, built on the pain Meghan allegedly carried in silence. But yes, Ma'am complicates the picture. Tom Quinn suggests that both women were pushed to tears, that mutual regret hung in the air, and that neither emerged from the conflict unscathed. These insider viewpoints add emotional weight but not confirmation. They make the story feel real without proving that it is. To this day, no official palace statement has acknowledged or denied that Meghan ever insulted Charlotte. Not a single spokesperson has confirmed the infamous fat and pudgy line, nor has Buckingham Palace released any clarification to the contrary. Their silence, as always, is deliberate. The monarchy doesn't explain, it endures. But that vacuum of information leaves plenty of room for interpretations, fabrications, and agenda-driven commentary. The sources we're left with are messy. Tabloids hungry for headlines. Memoirs curated for legacy. Anonymous staffers whose motives remain unclear. Even those close to the royal household often speak in riddles, fearing legal retribution or reputational fallout. What we do know is that moments of real tension occurred, confirmed by multiple insiders and by Meghan and Harry themselves. But whether that tension included name-calling directed at Charlotte is still just that, an allegation. Meghan's defenders have pushed back hard against the more vicious rumors, painting her as someone who, while occasionally firm, is quick to apologize and move forward. They point to the story of Meghan sending flowers and a note to Kate after the dress incident, a gesture of reconciliation not often credited by her critics. They highlight her silence in the face of months of bad press, asking why someone accused of cruelty hasn't lashed out if she were truly guilty. And then there's the media. The same machine that once dubbed her a fairy tale duchess turned on her with a vengeance. Headlines shouting Meghan humiliated Charlotte are crafted to enrage, not inform. Emotional manipulation is profitable, and the royal family, fractured or not, is an endless well of drama for tabloids and broadcasters alike. When accusations catch fire online, they take on a life of their own even if the origin is questionable. This is the heart of the dilemma. What can we trust in a story built on fragments? We must learn to weigh the whispers carefully, to question the framing, and to recognize when we're being sold a version of events designed to provoke outrage rather than offer clarity. Because while the facts may be foggy, the implications are not. The choices made in the shadows of this drama say more about royal dynamics than the allegations themselves ever could. Still, whether unconfirmed or not, what does this say about royal family dynamics? This alleged incident isn't isolated. It reflects deeper cracks in royal relationships. What unfolded between Meghan and Charlotte wasn't just an emotional episode behind palace doors. It was a symptom of something far more complicated, far more dangerous. A family unraveling under the unbearable weight of its own image. What started as a tear over a dress evolved into a mirror held up to the monarchy's deepest insecurities. It wasn't just about a child's feelings being hurt. It was about what happens when tradition and modernity collide and no one is willing to bend. The fracture between Prince William and Prince Harry didn't begin at that wedding, but it accelerated after it. At the heart of their rift wasn't just family drama, it was about how the palace machine was being used. Harry believed Meghan was being unfairly vilified by the press, and worse, that palace insiders were feeding the fire. William, on the other hand, stood by the institution, defending the crown's silence and protecting the royal narrative. The tension over Charlotte was just one of many explosive moments that deepened their divide. It wasn't just brother against brother, it was loyalty against defiance, silence against exposure. Meghan had never truly been accepted by the palace system. From the start, she was an outsider, divorced, American, biracial, and unapologetically modern. Her approach to royal life clashed with an institution built on restraint, hierarchy, and unspoken rules. Where others had learned to conform, Meghan questioned. Where others stayed silent, Meghan spoke. And that difference, that refusal to assimilate, bred tension not only with senior royals, but with palace staff who were unprepared and unwilling to deal with a duchess who defied the mold. The incident with Charlotte didn't just expose a crack between Meghan and Kate, it exposed how fragile the royal ecosystem really was. For years, tension simmered beneath the surface. Kate's calm versus Meghan's charisma, the staff's loyalty versus Meghan's demands, the monarchy's expectations versus Meghan's freedom. The wedding drama simply brought all these dynamics crashing into public view. And while royal protocol tried to keep it contained, the damage had already begun to spread. By 2020, the fallout had reached its breaking point. Harry and Meghan stepped down as working royals. The decision, dubbed Megxit, sent shockwaves across the world. No longer willing to play by palace rules, the couple packed their lives and moved to California, cutting physical and emotional distance between themselves and the crown. But their departure didn't resolve the tension. It magnified it. Now, with oceans between them, the war shifted to the media, to memoirs, to primetime interviews, each one unraveling more of the royal family's carefully guarded mystique. The world, too, began choosing sides. Team Sussex versus Team Cambridge wasn't just a media creation, it was a cultural divide. For some, Meghan represented the future, outspoken, progressive, independent. For others, she was a threat, a disruptor who fractured royal unity. And in the middle of it all stood a monarchy scrambling to maintain relevance while trying to hold onto centuries of tradition. The consequence of all this? A royal family in disarray. Public trust eroded. Family cohesion splintered. What was once seen as the last institution standing a symbol of unity, resilience, and dignity now looked more human than ever. Flawed, fractured, and vulnerable. Now, let's zoom in on how each person handled fallout from that moment. This event carved new rifts. Here's how each key player responded in the aftermath. What began as a private emotional eruption behind palace walls quickly escalated into a defining fracture in royal history. And the reactions of those involved didn't just speak volumes, they echoed through every headline, interview, and public appearance that followed. Prince William, known for his stoic calm and duty-first demeanor, reportedly reached a level of fury few had ever seen. For him, this was no longer a matter of decorum or protocol. It was about his daughter. When you strike at a man's child, even with words you strike at the core of his being. William, according to sources close to the palace, was enraged not only by the alleged remarks but by the emotional damage they caused to a toddler too young to defend herself. His protectiveness over Charlotte and Kate hardened into something unshakable. It wasn't just anger, it was resolved. From that moment on, William began distancing himself from Harry and Meghan. A bond that once stood as the future of the monarchy was, from this point forward, fractured. Kate, meanwhile, was left in an impossible position. Only weeks after giving birth to Prince Louis, she was thrust into royal chaos she hadn't asked for and didn't deserve. Already physically and emotionally vulnerable, Kate reportedly focused on diffusing the tension. She sent flowers, tried to mend fences, and maintained a dignified silence as speculation swirled around her. But behind the polished appearances, insiders say she felt deeply wounded, overshadowed. Not only was her daughter hurt, but she too was cast in the villain's role by Meghan's televised narrative. So while she smiled in public, Kate quietly shifted into self-protection mode, surrounding herself with loyal aides and choosing her words more carefully than ever before. Harry, always torn between duty and devotion, chose his wife. He stood by Meghan's version of events with unwavering conviction. In Spare, he recounted Meghan sobbing on the floor after the dress incident, painting her as the one who had been mistreated, not the other way around. To Harry, the problem wasn't just the family dynamic, it was the palace machine. The institutional coldness. The silence in the face of media brutality. He believed Meghan had been left to drown in a sea of tabloid cruelty, and rather than protect her, the palace threw her to the wolves. That belief, more than anything, fueled his rage and his exit. Meghan, for her part, has remained consistent in her denials of malicious intent. Her defenders argue she was navigating immense stress, estrangement from her father, media harassment, a rigid royal system, and simply did her best under extraordinary pressure. Meghan has insisted she tried to apologize, that the flower gesture came from a place of remorse, and that her tears were genuine. To her, the incident was one of many misunderstandings that spiraled into catastrophe but never meant to cause harm. Yet, the damage was done. Behind the scenes, rumors swirled that palace staff were leaking stories to favored outlets, shaping the public narrative to protect one duchess and demonize the other. The idea that the firm chose sides became a dangerous whisper that grew louder with every passing interview. Trust collapsed. Communication broke down. The once praised Fab Four became a fractured image of what could have been a modern monarchy's most powerful team. Now, the lines are clear. William and Kate stand as the face of the monarchy in Britain, grounded in tradition, focused on legacy. Meanwhile, Harry and Meghan live in California, separate not just by distance but by purpose. They speak out, they build their brand, and they navigate a new version of royal life, one without crowns but heavy with consequence. With all that in mind, what's next and how will this impact royal history? Will this moment go down as the line that reshaped the British monarchy, or just another palace rumor? That question continues to haunt royal watchers and loyalists alike. For some, it was the flashpoint that revealed the true fault lines in a family long trained to hide its wounds. For others, it remains a cloud of speculation, inflated by biased narratives and weaponized media. But whether fact or myth, there's no denying the power this story has had and continues to have on how we see the monarchy, and each person within it. Let's separate what we know from what we've been told. There was a disagreement over Princess Charlotte's dress. There were tears, though who shed them and why remains tangled in conflicting accounts. Meghan claims she cried. Harry backs her up. Kate has never publicly disputed it. A tailor confirmed the dresses were indeed a mess, though he saw no argument. And then came the unconfirmed but explosive allegation that Meghan made cruel comments to or about Charlotte, which left the child in tears and her parents enraged. It's a claim denied by Meghan's defenders and never substantiated by palace statements. Yet it remains lodged in public memory because of its emotional weight and its potential to define the point of no return. What makes this moment so significant isn't just what may or may not have been said. It's that a child was placed, however unintentionally, at the center of a royal war. Charlotte became the lightning rod in a storm of collapsing trust and unraveling relationships. William's fury. Kate's grief. Meghan's stress. Harry's rage. All of it pivoted around this fragile incident. And the loyalty that once tethered these four key figures to the so-called Fab Four seemed to vanish overnight. From that fracture came the defining split of a generation. The Sussexes on one side, seeking freedom, media control, and a new life in America. The Cambridges on the other, clinging to duty, silence, and tradition. Press narratives fanned the flames. Books rewrote the script. The world took sides. Meghan's image, once radiant and refreshing, became polarizing, divisive. William's once steady future king became increasingly guarded, his actions scrutinized, his reactions held under a microscope. What should have been private became public. What were once unthinkable two royal brothers no longer speaking became our reality. And so we ask, can the damage ever be undone? Will William and Meghan, or even Harry and Kate, ever find a path back? Or is this the kind of betrayal that lingers forever? Every family has its breaking point. But in a royal family, that rupture becomes legacy. It becomes history. Whether this was the moment that truly broke them, or simply the story that symbolizes a much larger unraveling, it will be remembered. It will be studied. It will be passed down in whispers and documentaries alike. But more than anything, this is a moment for reflection. What does a family deal-breaker look like? Is it a cruel word spoken in stress? A child's tears ignored? A refusal to bend to tradition? Or is it all of it building quietly, until someone finally says, "Enough"? We want to hear your thoughts. Did this incident mark the end of unity in the House of Windsor? Or is reconciliation still possible? Let us know in the comments. Share your perspective. And most importantly, stay curious. That's our full breakdown. Stay tuned for deeper dives into royal dynamics. Thanks for watching, and we will see you in the next one.